E aí, meu querido, e aí, minha querida, tudo bem com vocês? Vamos começar mais um podcast, o Exchange Pass, que como sempre eu falo pra vocês é focado na sua transformação. Pra você que é novo aqui, nunca nos viu antes, nós trazemos aqui ex-alunos, nós trazemos recrutadores, psicólogos e qualquer pessoa que consiga trazer uma perspectiva diferente pra você do aprendizado do inglês, pra poder transformar a sua vida. Então, uma boa noite, já nos dê a chance aí de ajudar você nesse processo, deixando um like, certo, meu querido Carlos?
Certo, boa noite, galera. Olha, hoje é todo mundo com caneta e papel na mão. Canel e papel.
Tranquilo. Caneta e papel na mão. E por que, Carlos? Por que papel e caneta na mão?
Galera, pra quem não sabe inglês, é melhor apertar a tecla SAP.
Exatamente.
Hoje nós vamos falar com Jordan e Rocky.
Yeah.
É porque eu não peguei o nome dele direito.
How are you guys doing?
Guys?
What's going on?
What's going on? Salve, salve, Brasil.
My name is Jordan also. My artist name is...
Hey, Paulo, which camera are we looking for? That one.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
So my name is Jordan Fields. Jordan Fields Baskerville, but I also go by Bishop. Bishop. Mas aqui no Brasil é Bishop. It's the way that they pronounce it. I even changed the spelling to Bixop. But that makes it different because there's a lot of rappers that try to call themselves Bishop something, right? So I
Got it.
Well, I do hip hop music. Also an English teacher. That's how I sustain myself out here. But I do a lot of different things like transcriptions and translations and what do you call it when you do interpreting?
Interpreting.
I do all those different things to survive, but I came out here specifically for music and love and life.
That's nice,
good.
eh?
Nice introduction.
What about you, Rocky?
Yeah.
My name is Orock. I go by Rocky. I have a brand, Rocky in Real Time. I am, I'd say, an ex-programmer. Like I was doing programming, web development, software development for like 7 years, doing that remotely. I moved out to Brazil in 2021. I was supposed to be out here for my birthday for like a month, and then I just ended up staying because I was like, oh, it's so cool. Like, I was in different cities and just loving the culture, the food, the people. Became a praiano overnight.
Oh, good.
I was at the beach every day, like every single day. Just qualo queijo, those, and drinking caipirinhas and just chilling. And I like the vibe, so I just decided to stay here. So I've been living here for about close to 4 years now.
Whereabouts do you live?
I'm in Bahia.
Bahia.
Bahia. And the Brazilians beaches, they are completely different from the Americans one, right? Like people selling things.
Even just the cleanliness, like it's.
Go over there to Coney Island.
Yeah. So, we're from the same area. So in New York, there's this popular beach in the south of Brooklyn called Coney Island, right? And it's like I would barely consider it a beach. My standard of beaches has increased since I lived in Brazil. It would be like, so one of the first beaches I saw was Copacabana, of course, and Leblon and everything like that.
Rio's amazing.
And, when I talk to Brazilians, they're like, oh, that's not even the best beach. And I'm like, what? It's so clean.
To be
it's
honest,
so nice.
I don't like beaches like Copacabana. I like the energy on the beach.
Uh-huh.
I think it's beautiful energy.
But
I like natural beaches with like trees and rainforests in the back.
Yeah, not much human contact, right?
Yeah.
Buildings and sewer systems being connected directly.
In Rio,
got
there
it.
is Cabo Frio.
Cabo Frio.
Frio.
I like
That's a very
Pretty good as
natural.
well.
I've been Arraial.
Arraial
do Cabo.
Yeah,
That's the place.
yeah, beautiful there.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Cabo Frio. Where was I? Yeah, so like Coney Island is just like, I don't know. I don't even think I could go there anymore after being on a Brazilian beach. It's so clean. The waters are so crystalline and clear. And
let me ask you guys one thing. Because you're not allowed to drink alcohol in the United States on the street, right?
No.
But on the beach or at the beach.
It's not a safe combination. Let's
Yeah.
be honest.
Well,
you know, Americans.
for us, it's a safe combination. We do
Well,
that a
No,
lot.
it's
Depend how
cultural.
much you drink.
It's cultural, but in reality, it's just not a good.
Yeah,
you
it's
shouldn't
not.
mix the two.
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's not a cultural thing, and not only safe, it's not environmentally friendly, right? Because people every day, I went to the beach. I never done this in Rio, but it's probably 6 times worse. When you go to places like Guarujá, and you wait to the end of the night when the sun's going down. Me and my wife, we usually clean the beach. We go with a big bag and we help the people that clean the beach because people leave a lot of shit. And as the tide is coming, it takes all of that plastic, and that's every night, you know. And I think, because when he said dirty, you have to be fair. It's not dirtiness that is affecting our beaches. It's it's the biological content in the water. Like, it's a lot of moss. It's a lot of different algae and things that make the water look dark. But it's actually, if you go to a place like Guarujá where they have the canal system, that's dirty. I saw a guy swimming in that before. I mean, that's literally pounds and pounds of human fecal matter going directly into the ocean, and a little boy with no shirt on that probably has some type of scar that's open wound swimming directly in it. And I'm like, damn. And that's how in Guarujá they say the area, like, oh, I'm in Canal 1, Canal 2. The canal is just shit.
Put all the shit.
Is that in the south of Sao Paulo, Guarujá?
Yeah, well, you're thinking about Grajaú, I think.
Grajaú.
But Guarujá is the beach area in Sao Paulo.
Oh, okay.
It's about an hour and some change away. Yeah, because you live in You live in Salvador.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would you leave Salvador to go to Guarujá? I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, there is a famous beach in Salvador, Itapuã.
Itapuã.
Yeah, have you been there before?
Yeah, I've been pretty much all the beaches in that area.
Yeah.
But is it the best one?
I wouldn't consider it the
What's
best
the
one.
best beach in Salvador?
In my opinion, it's a little bit further out of Salvador. It's like just outside of Salvador. I think it's like Praia de Vila Atlânticos or something. So it's like really quiet. The waves are a little rough, but you know, it's a nice beach. I like the beach. I forget the name of the beach, but it's on the island Itaparica. So that island just across Salvador. That's a nice one. And then
People live on that island?
yeah, a lot of people live on that island. And then there's another beach where I like. It's Madre de Deus. It's on this island, Madre de Deus, and you know, it's a little bit further down. I think it's like, I forget the name, but it was so quiet. It's like one of those hidden beaches, and you know, and that Bahia is a bay, so there's a lot of beaches around there. So I haven't even explored all of them. You know, there's a lot of them. So, yeah, I think that Vilas de Atlântico, I think that's how you say it, Vilas de Atlântico, something like that.
I'm gonna get his advice because
Yeah.
I love bossa nova, and there is a Brazilian singer, I have forgotten his name right now, but he has a song talking about Itapuã. What is his name? Vinícius de Moraes. Like sunset in Itapuã.
Oh yeah, I lived in Itapuã, that area, for like a month when I was visiting like Bahia, and because I just wanted to get a good feel of how like a more, I guess, down to earth, more real Brazilian life.
Down to earth.
Yeah, because you know, as someone who's foreign, you have all these conceptions or misconceptions about Brazil, and I feel like I was isolated from like how everyday Brazilians living in like Baja and like all these kind of touristy areas. So I lived in Itapuã for like a month, and I was like a couple blocks from the beach, like a 5-minute walk, and it was like beautiful. I loved it. Like I felt safe. You know, a lot of people were very helpful. The neighbor that I was, you know, living next to, she was very nice, very accommodating. So I got to get more of that Brazilian feel, like that authentic, you know, got to see the people, learn more
Warm
of the
way
language.
of living.
Yeah.
And one thing, like, you didn't prepare yourself to move to Brazil. Like, was you like it, and suddenly, I'll be here. But
Wasn't pandemic when you came, right?
Yeah. It was like
21, that's
late 2020. Like
late
I thought they
2020.
closed off. Brazilian closed off.
no,
The
they
borders?
were open. They were open to tourists.
But I think they closed everything in January 2022, if I'm not wrong.
Really? That
No,
seems like
no,
the-
2021. 2021.
But you came in 2020.
Yeah, I came in 2020 when I was here.
At the beginning?
Yeah, I was because my birthday is in February, on February 1st. So I was here from like the middle of January. So I was supposed to come
So
end of
never
December.
closed.
Yeah, no, never closed.
That's
But
what it
like
was.
I worked at the airport
You
at it
did.
at this time, and I remember my company it used to have like over 150 flights a day, and from one day to another, 13 flights a day.
Okay, so they limited the flights, but they didn't close the
No.
borders.
No, didn't close. They didn't close.
Bolsonaro wasn't playing that. He's like,
Yeah,
I don't
horrible.
care about death. I just want.
Didn't manage well, eh?
Yeah, horrible. And in January 2021, like we cut down more flights because in August we had 100 flights again, August 2020. But in January 2021, we cut down some because of the pandemic again.
When did you came here?
Man, I've been here for a long time, and it was 2016, June,
2016.
the end of June 30th, 2016.
But all right, but like you planned your trip to come and to stay.
It was based
Right.
on how me and my wife were going to get along. I met my wife on Facebook, and we had a plan to do music together and be in a relationship, but only if we clicked as well as we did online in person. A lot of people don't click that well in person like that. It's an online thing.
So
It's a fad.
all right, did you guys met on Facebook?
We met on Facebook.
Yeah, and you talked for how many months before you guys met each other in person?
About 8 months.
Wow.
8 months.
After 1 month, I asked her to be my girlfriend. It was very,
yeah.
it was very childish. I just said, "Hey, do you want to be my girlfriend?" Why? Because I knew that I was eventually going to move there, and so the idea was she was part of a house in a arts collective with music. There were 6 women. One of the women that were in that house, she had a thing for me. She was another rapper. I liked her music. Physically, she wasn't that, just wasn't that interested. You know what I mean? But I liked her music. I think she's a very talented person. And so my wife was like the manager of the house. They were doing the projects, the Fomento projects, like Tech and stuff like that. So they were getting a lot of money from the government to run that house and have activities. And it was also, it was a real big house in Capão Redondo. And so it was like the idea of the place was for artists that want to be a part of the scene in the south side of São Paulo, they could stay there. And so this girl was like, "Why don't you come?" This is my wife's friend at the time.
Yeah.
Why don't you come here, move in with us, and we can make music all night? It was kind of sexually explicit with the we can make music all night kind of thing. And I'm like, yo, not that interested. And it's like I'd be the only man in the house. That's weird. You know what I mean? I didn't want that. But she was like, "Nah, you're gonna do it." She kept forcing me. She kept like, "Yo, I really want you here so we can make music." And she sent me a photo. She's like, "Talk to these girls. These are the girls that are in charge." And I was like, "All right, let me look at it." And I saw one of them was my wife. And I saw the picture, and I'm like, "Oh, well, maybe I might think about it."
Yeah.
Look at interesting, eh?
Yeah, so I started talking to her, and she didn't have any kids. She wasn't married, and she had just moved back.
But how at this time she didn't speak English.
No, she didn't speak English.
And how?
I was learning. I was teaching myself Portuguese. It was just very basic. It was just like enough to get by, but it was enough for us to communicate. Because she had just moved back from Italy. She was living in Italy for 10 years.
For 10 years?
Yeah.
Oh.
From 2004 to 2014, my wife lived in Italy. She just moved back at the end of 2014. I met her in 2015. She literally is just getting back when she started. They started the house because she still had money from euros when she was
Yeah.
living in Italy. She had a lot of money saved, so they got the house. Then they started getting the government grants and money because they were already doing a lot of nice things. In the, I hope I'm not talking too fast for you guys.
Nah, that's so good.
I'm just being a normal me and speaking
Yeah.
the way I normally speak. But
Yeah.
sometimes I have to remember we gotta speak slower than we normally.
Nah,
do.
that's so good.
No, it's okay.
It's
Do you
okay.
think we should introduce to the audience something?
No,
in
this
Portuguese?
time
No?
audience has to.
To make a effort.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
So
all
you
right.
heard it. I was thinking about you.
Yeah, because actually
I'm
most
thinking.
most of the podcasts we speak in Portuguese.
Uh,
Mainly like with our students, we speak part of the podcast in English and part of it in Portuguese. Not all in English. So let's do it.
Let's
Well,
do
yeah,
it.
we're doing it
The
all
best
in.
way for them to learn is to learn the
Yeah.
natural speed.
Immersion.
Yeah.
100% immersion. So we like when I did meet her, I talked to her and then I had to explain to that girl that I'm not interested in you. She ended up leaving, and then when I came here, it was just me and my wife. But I knew I was coming, so I felt like if we're gonna live in the same house, you're single now. I gotta save money for at least 6 months before I come.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're still gonna be single in 6 months. So I was like, yeah, I'm coming in 6 months. Let's just make it official. What do you think? And I don't think I've ever asked a girl that before. I don't think I was like, hey, do you want to go steady? I've never done that. Like I just was like, yo, we be talking every day. It's what it is. Like we don't have to say things. You know what I mean? Well, in that situation, I asked her. I had to make it clear because I'll be devastated. Like at that point, getting to know her was like every day I would go to work. I'd talk to her a little bit, practice Portuguese. I had a mission, you know. And so when I came out here, we were living in that house. We had a very small room, which is I think it's a wonderful thing. You meet somebody online, and if you really like them, live in a little small room with that person for 6 months, like real small, like smaller than this room right here. And we lived, and most of it was the bed. But you get to, experience all the odors, and you know what I mean?
Everything, all the unpleasant things,
all
and
the
all the lovely
unpleasant
things.
things.
In the meantime, you're trying to learn Portuguese and she trying to learn English, right?
Not really. I mean, she's learning English now. We speak in English now, but I will tell you, when you date somebody internationally, which you're in this situation, you're married now,
I'm
right?
married.
Congratulations, by
Thanks,
the way.
man.
Oh,
Hey.
congrats. Good going.
Yeah, he got married, what is it, April?
Well
right?
done.
April. He got married in April, so congratulations.
Brazilian.
Brazilian, yeah, Baiana.
But I guarantee you, y'all speak only in English together, right?
Yeah. It's kind of one of those things where she's trying to improve her English for like just professional reasons, and then we just fell in the habit of speaking English,
That's what happens.
and now it's like I'm trying to improve my Portuguese,
But
and
you're in that habit.
yeah, it's just so hard to get her to speak Portuguese sometimes. I'm like, this is your first language. Why don't you speak with me?
So it's always like that. It's
Yeah.
always like that. Anytime you're in a relationship, I don't know if you guys are ever in a relationship with another
I've been.
person that
Yeah.
speaks in
Another language?
Yeah.
Well, you lived in Australia, so
Yeah, I
know.
had some people. I have girlfriends from Australians. I never had American, but Italians, Argentinians, and all in
I haven't.
Portuguese, all in English.
all in English.
Yeah.
Well, that's different. If you're living, if you're with an Italian person in Australia,
Yeah, it
that
has
makes-
to be in
that
English.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but like with the Australian girls, you weren't speaking in
Nah,
Portuguese,
nah,
but they
not at
didn't
all.
have any. It didn't have any interest in learning
Nah,
Portuguese.
not at
either.
all.
But the thing is, when you're in a relationship with somebody that's from a different country, and you both live in one of the countries that you're
Yeah.
from, you get caught in one language. It's really difficult to do both. I'm trying
Extremely.
now, and it's hard. Like I don't know, it's like physically hard for me to speak English with my wife. 'Cause we started in Portuguese because my whole thing is I need to learn this language to move here, and so we started all talking, and then that was us. You get caught in that. You get stuck in that. So it's a good. I knew that you were gonna say that because
Yeah.
every couple that I know out here, they're in the language trap. I call it.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it feels like. 'Cause like now getting my wife to speak Portuguese is like, it's like pulling teeth. Like that's an expression, by the way, from the English expression. It's like something that's really difficult, pulling teeth. So, slowly but steady, we're trying to get into the rhythm of it, of speaking more Portuguese, because I think, and this is just my personal opinion, because I'm using a lot of different sources to learn Portuguese. Like I told you, I listen to Mano Brown's podcast. I listen to Podpah, Fora de Terestina. I listen to...
What is that?
It's like a political podcast. I listen to Flow podcast. I listen to a lot of different like Brazilian podcasts. And most of these people are from Rio or Sao Paulo. And I'm living in Bahia.
It's a
And
different
I'm
accent.
telling you, oh my gosh. The Baiano accent, like I love people from Bahia. I love everyone
Fala
from Bahia.
painho.
But
Era painho,
the
barril.
accent is so different. And then when you get to the interior of Bahia, like my wife is from Santo Antonio de Jesus, and it's their colloquial accent there it's so hard to grasp sometimes.
Yeah,
And
even for us here in Brazil.
yeah.
But what I was going to say, 2 episodes ago, the girl that came here, Vanessa, she was from Bahia. She is from Bahia. She lives in São Paulo, but she is from Bahia. But she doesn't have much accent. That's nice.
Yeah, but I think, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but if we get a person from São Paulo or from Rio Grande do Sul and another from Bahia or from, I don't know, Pernambuco, and we put these 2 people together and say, guys, you cannot use slangs and your own expressions. Like, only speak literally Portuguese. We get by, you understand each other very well. That's my point of view, my opinion. I'd like to know from you about the U.S. If I get a person from the South and another from the North, without the expressions, the regional expressions, are you guys able to understand?
I think in the United States, I really just think it's based, and this is in Brazil too. It's based on your level of education and how how learned you are, if you will. Because I got some cousins, man, and they're from North Carolina. That's not even that South. But it's just like, sometimes they say some things, and I'm just like, but they're not very, like, they didn't go to, high school. Well, I think high school, but they didn't finish, so it's a different thing. But I do think that Brazil has more variety of accents, and that's
Way
because you guys are more isolated from each other. Like, it takes me 6 hours to get from Sao Paulo to Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah.
But it's really the same distance kind of as like New York to Washington, D.C. But the roads are all like this, right? So it's 6 hours when it doesn't really need to be. If the geography permitted you to just go in a straight line, it'll be 3
Go
hours.
faster. Oh, got it.
Yeah.
I thought you guys have more accents than
Maybe, but I can't tell the difference. If somebody from Texas is speaking and somebody from North Carolina is speaking, me personally, I can't tell you the difference. But if somebody from or Georgia or whatever, I can't tell the difference. But I do know the difference when somebody from New Orleans speaks.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that dude's from New Orleans, right?
Nolans, they call it Nolans.
From New Orleans, right? They got a different thing that they do, right? It's that mixture of French in there. They say beaucoup, right?
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, the beaucoup is like, merci beaucoup.
Yeah, merci. Yeah, oui.
But they say that in English, in Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Like, if everyone say I got a lot of money, it's like, I got beaucoup money.
Yeah.
But what he's saying happens the same in Brazil, because like if you get like a state from the north, maybe you can't difference what is like Bahia and Pernambuco, because they pretty similar, but that's the north accent.
Yeah.
But the north to the south, there is a very different accent.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Curitiba to Rio Grande do Sul, they pretty similar.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have that. Like,
Yeah.
if Boston and New York, I think like Boston, they'll say car. Like, it's a car.
Yeah.
But in Massachusetts, it seems like they don't do the R, right? But I understand what the person's saying. He just has a little twinge that I'll say, oh, maybe you're not from Massachusetts, but you're from New England.
Mm-hmm.
You know what New England is? New England?
New England?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the northeast area of the United States. There's a bunch of states like Connecticut,
Connecticut is the first one, I think.
Massachusetts,
Rhode Island,
Maine.
New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont. 5 states.
I'm very bad in geography.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't matter.
That's like something only Americans would pretty much know.
Yeah.
Boston is the capital of New England, basically, right? Because you have the team, the New England Patriots. You know the team, the football team, the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a
I
lot of
don't.
Brazilians wear their logo. I see the logo everywhere because they win a lot of championships. But they represent a big area. Like it's only one city where the stadium is, but they didn't say the Boston Patriots. It's like the whole New England Patriots.
Oh, got it.
There's a New England accent, definitely.
Mhm.
There's a northern accent like Bobby from Bobby's World. Oh, don't you know? Is that like Minnesota? I'm from Minnesota. Minnesota. Like that. It's almost like Canadian kind of
Yeah,
thing.
they
What
speak
are
kind of smiling.
What are you talking about?
Goodness.
They say boot, but it's about. But in
Boot.
in Canada, if you listen to Drake, you could kind of hear it a little bit. He does it a little.
He does 1,000 different accents.
Oh, that's true.
Like, boot.
About.
About, but they say boot.
About.
Abu.
Abu. That's
All right.
because Canadians don't really have a different accent like that. Like they don't. The black Canadians, yeah, because they have a lot of Caribbean influences in the way they speak. But if you take a white Canadian and you take a white American from the north, they kind of talk the same.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's not
Got
much
it.
difference. I can't hear a difference. I watch YouTube. Jim Carrey's Canadian.
I did not know that.
Oh,
Yeah, fuck he was
I didn't know
American.
he's.
that.
I thought he was American.
He's Canadian.
He's Canadian.
You can look it up. He's Canadian. A lot of people are Canadian. You just don't know it.
Just don't know it.
They don't talk really different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You guys don't.
Yeah.
You guys mock the Canadians sometimes, like in TV shows and series, but
But I don't understand that because most Americans don't really know Canadians. Like how many Canadians do you know? Like in New York?
Not many.
Yeah.
Not many.
I've never met any before in the United States, and
Yeah.
we're right there, 6 hours away. And you know
Yeah.
what? I've never been there. Have you ever been to Canada?
Yeah, quite a few times.
I've never been there before.
To Niagara?
No, I've been to Toronto. I got a bunch of friends in Toronto, so I've been there. And then there's a small city, like maybe like a 30-minute drive from Detroit called Windsor.
Okay, I've heard.
So I've been to Windsor and I've been to Toronto.
They have a mall that people like to go to, right in Windsor.
and
Yeah.
they say Toronto, right?
It's like how do they say? It's like Toronto or something like that.
Yeah,
It's
they,
like
they
really.
they do not speak the T. It's
Yeah.
different.
Well, we
And
don't either, though. We don't say Atlanta.
Atlanta,
Atlanta,
right?
yeah.
Atlanta.
No. So
Atlanta.
it's the same. I think it's the same thing. If I say, how do I say Toronto? I'm gonna say Toronto. I'm gonna say Toronto.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was talking to Carlos yesterday because I was watching Podpah episode, and they were talking to, what is his name?
Hugh
Help me.
Jackman.
No, Luciano Huck.
Okay.
He was talking about his plane accident with his family.
Luciano Huck had a plane accident.
Yeah, he had a plane accident
I think was
with
He's
the whole
the
family.
guy that kind of looks like Big Bird.
Kind of looks like
Sunday
Big Bird.
Sunday nights at Global.
Yeah, he's
The news anchor.
Yes,
not a news
yes, that one.
anchor.
No, he is.
He's not the news.
He's like slim.
He's slim, white. He's got a kind of bird kind of nose, kind of.
But he presents on Global. The
Yeah,
news.
yeah.
He presents like the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire type stuff. That the
Oh, he
Domingo.
does. Oh, Domingo. Yeah, that guy.
guy.
He has-
I don't
Hook.
like his face.
He's like
yo.
Hook.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Luciano.
Yeah,
Huck.
me
Oh,
either.
okay,
But
okay, I know him.
I clicked on the video because I was curious about the accident. Anyway, and then he was talking to the presenters, and he spoke a sentence, and I was like, I didn't understand. So I listened to that part again
In Portuguese.
in Portuguese
Mm.
twice, and I was like, my goodness, what does he says here? And then I listened for the third time, and I don't understand. I don't know what he's talking about in that single sentence.
Where is he from?
No clue at all. Like I'm
I think
able to
he's,
understand.
Carioca. He's
Yeah,
from
but I'm
Carioca.
able to
Really?
understand.
He doesn't have a real accent.
Because he's a
'Cause-
presenter, he has no accent.
no accent.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you
They
see,
fake their
people that
accent.
present TV shows, they have no accent at
They're
all.
fake then.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
It's not. Well,
Patrícia Poeta, she has an accent from Rio Grande do Sul. You can hear it when she speaks.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
But a lot of them
But
don't.
I think she she forced a little bit to don't have the accent.
Okay. She doesn't do a good job.
Yeah, no. No, because Rio
Do
like,
better.
Like in Rio Grande do Sul, they use tu a lot for você, and she doesn't. You know.
Okay. That's true.
So maybe the two, like we can see that she's forcing no accent at all.
Gotcha.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, no clue at all. Like when I went to England, when I went to Liverpool to my exchange, I got not afraid. I got terrified.
Yeah,
I always teach my students to use like specific words to express things. Like sometimes you're not hungry, you're starving.
I don't like
Sometimes-
that word,
yeah.
to be honest. I'm
Starving?
against that word because, like, a lot of people don't know what it means to really starve.
Yeah.
You know, when you starve, when I hear people, especially when I hear certain people that I know, like, you have money, bro. You're not starving.
Yeah, you're not
You know, it just sounds offensive. Like, I have a student, she's rich.
Yeah,
You know
my,
what I
my
mean?
mom and my dad says the same. Like you haven't faced this situation before.
Yeah.
But I mean, like sometimes you need to
Really
use a
express
specific
it.
to
Yeah.
express it. I like it. And okay, I studied their accent for I think 3 months. And when I got there, I was okay with it, you know. I got by very easily. And when I was talking to the teachers from the course, I was like, "Are you from Liverpool?" And my teacher was like, "Yes, but how do you know your accent?" They try to fake their accent because it's really strong. Like instead of saying
Extremely
work,
strong.
they say werk. Werk.
Whack.
Like they do not say home, they say
Hungry.
om.
I'm
Om.
hungry.
Like are you going home?
Oh, well, British people don't seem like they do the H that much.
Like,
Are you having a laugh?
yeah, the Northerners in the United Kingdom, their accent is super, super thick. Like Liverpool, Newcastle
as well.
Those accents is so different from London.
Yeah.
Even though with the London or the Cagney, Harry Potter,
Harry
There's
Potter.
there's no H there.
Yeah. Bo water.
What?
Like before going to England, I was like studying a lot. And I got a simple sentence like I went to the supermarket with my girlfriend. It was crowded. We got upset about it. Simple sentence, but they say like I went to the Asda with me, but she was chocker. You know, I was like, what?
I wouldn't understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
That to me.
But
Yeah.
this happens the same. Like if you go to Portugal, the Portuguese is totally
Yeah.
different. If you
Sure.
go to
Sure.
Mozambique or if you go to another,
I can understand the Angolans. I guess because I have I know a lot of Angolan people, and I know some Mozambican people. So like I can, even though the words are different, I can understand them. But I don't talk to Portuguese people that much. So when I do, they cut the word in a way that's just difficult to understand. Like they're not letting the word finish before they start another word. That's how I feel about Portuguese.
I think with the Portuguese-speaking Africans, like generally, like because like my family's Nigerian, I'm Nigerian, so like, you know, we speak our colonized languages a lot slower. So I think that's what's it's so for me. Like when I heard someone when I was like when I'm practicing Portuguese, I like YouTube recommended this random guy from Mozambique, and I just started watching his videos. And then I just discovered, like, I understood so much more of what he was saying because he was actually speaking slower, right?
yeah.
you're a person that speaks slower.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
do
mean,
think so.
He's speaking a colonized language.
Yeah. So, I just, it's different because, like, when I've heard people from Portugal speak, it is different. I actually prefer Brazilian Portuguese to Portugal Portuguese because it's
Yeah,
harder
me
to
either.
digest.
Yeah.
It's prettier too. Like
Yeah,
I don't want to
better.
offend anybody from Portugal.
Yeah.
I'm saying your language, it's not ugly. It's just
Yeah.
you know what I mean. The Brazilian's prettier. I guess it's because of the mixture of other cultures in it, like the indigenous words that they have in the Brazilian Portuguese.
Yeah, I think there is a respectful way to talk about your preferences when you are talking about accent, about speaking without be offensive, for
Without
example.
offending.
Yeah, I can say I prefer Brazilian accent to a Portugal accent, but I cannot say like, oh, it's ugly. Like you say, oh, it's not ugly. I don't want to offend. Well, there is a right way to say that. I think that there's no problem.
Change a little bit the subject. You have a project here, Espaço 337, right? What was the idea and why? I've been there. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of immigrant there, right? I remember at the end, like we all speak English, like the family that was there with the kids all speak English, and I felt, fuck, that's in Brazil. That's not I thought it was uncommon, but when I've been there, it was pretty nice. So, what is the idea of Espaço 337?
Well, here's the thing. Like, we just things are floating in the air right now. When this comes out, I don't know if the Espaço 337 is still gonna be a thing or not. We gotta find out based on a couple of conversations very soon. But on this day that we're recording this, which is it's the 16th or the 15th
Today?
Yeah,
16th.
16th. So we're August 16th. We're still in August, so we're doing events, and the idea is to mix cultures. Where I know a lot of people who are English speakers or native speakers. He's here. I know him. I know a lot of people that come through to the spot every Saturday that either are native speakers or are Brazilians that speak English. And it's a place. It's like a watering hole. You know what a watering hole is?
No.
You ever watch National Geographic?
Yes, not a lot, not too much,
right.
but I.
Well, you ever seen like they're in the savannah in Africa and all of the animals are together because the only one place to drink water?
Yeah.
That's the watering hole.
Oh.
So watering holes bring people together. So I'm saying is that the Espaço 337 is supposed to be like a watering hole for Brazilians, people who are from countries that speak English. You could be from anywhere, but most people I know are from the United States or Canada or England. You know what I mean? And
there were some people from Costa Rica as well, right?
She never came.
Oh, she never came.
But she was supposed to come, the girl from Costa Rica. And just other people from other countries, right? Everybody that came to that event was from the United States. That particular day, there were more Americans there than there were actually Brazilians, which was weird. Like, I was just speaking all in English, like on this podcast. I was translating for the Brazilians in their own country. But that's the idea. The idea is because we like to do shows. After the pandemic, we were getting calls, a lot less calls to do shows. And we used to, charge a fee and do a show and get the money. And so I felt that money going away. But we still want to be out there performing, and I'm not going to be on the train and doing stuff like that. That's not me. Yeah. So I was like, let's get a center and we can, mix it with the music and the English and black culture stuff. Like sometimes we have events talking about history and black history, black culture, different plural black cultures, because there's Brazilian culture, there's African cultures, there's so anybody that wants to have an event at Espaço 337, as long as it's still there in existence, we don't charge a lot. Y'all can holler at us and we'll do an event if it's talking about dance, music, culture, language. That's what we're all about.
Yeah.
So
And
A plural place.
and also you guys have a English teaching project, right?
Well, that's that's how I've been sustaining myself out here through English. I like working teaching English. It's fun to me. I've been a teacher. Yeah. That's all I know how to do. I was a teacher in public schools in New Jersey. You said we were having a conversation. It was like, well, history, but a lot of people don't. Well, I like that. My degree is in history.
Oh, that's why.
So I was a history teacher.
Nice.
And then I was actually a history teacher for the Latino students, the immigrants. To be honest, because my degree is not in education. Here you call it pedagogia. Pedagogia. I didn't do that. I just went to do the history. I was going to do something called alternate route, where you get your degree, then you start working, and then you at night you go to school and get the other for the education, so you can really give class. I just didn't do the normal route because you have to give a certain amount of teaching hours, and you don't get paid for it. And I just there's no way that I can give all those hours and not make money. So I'm I'm just going to take the history go back. But I just never went back because I started working and then I went to Panama. I just moved because my city was in a war between black people and Latinos. I lost students at the school. People died, man. Like,
Oh, goodness.
people died, yo. It was crazy.
Over in Newark, right?
What is
Newark?
Plainfield, New Jersey?
Plainfield, okay.
It's next to Newark.
Okay.
It's
okay.
like 2, 3, 4 cities away from them, but little cities.
Mm.
But you got to pass mad, wealthy white cities to get to Plainfield. It's a hood that should not exist, but it exists because we had riots in '67. You know what a riot is?
Right is no.
A riot is a tumulto, manifestation.
Oh.
Where you break and burn stuff.
okay.
And in Newark, my father was shot in the head in the Newark riots in 1967. You can look up Newark riots 1967. It was a war. They had all the National Guard out there with them little tanks, not tanks, but the little Jeep type, Humvee type tanks rolling in the city with their bayonets, just killing people. 45 people got killed that night. It lasted 2 days. But my father got shot in the head, but not with a bullet, a rubber bullet. But it
A rubber bullet.
It
Oh.
knocked him out, though.
Thank God.
And until he died, he had that scar on his forehead.
At this time, we say 67, war segregation is still one.
Well, I grew up segregated.
Mm.
The thing is, segregation in the South during Jim Crow is by law, where you had the black codes and you had all of these rules of what black people could do and could not do. And that was sanctioned by the local state governments, right? Not the federal government, but the local state government. Not the federal government, because in the North, there was never, like, legal segregation. But people live where they feel comfortable, and they feel comfortable around their own. So, like, when my family moved from North Carolina, like I told you, my cousins, my family's from North Carolina and South Carolina and Virginia. I told you about my father's family and how they were slaves in that house in that city, Baskerville, Virginia. My last name is Baskerville. I showed you the picture.
Yeah, you showed me your
If
ID.
you tell us about this, the story about your name, it's pretty interesting for people to know.
Okay. Well, I was showing you, I showed you a picture of the man who enslaved my family.
Really?
He's from a very popular family, a very rich family. This is Dr. Robert Dorch Baskerville. This is the man who enslaved my family. I walk around with his last name. Probably not going to give it to my child, though. I don't want to keep passing this on, right?
Yeah, sure, for sure.
Now, he started a city in Virginia, in Mecklenburg County, called Baskerville, Virginia. And everybody there has my same last name because he had a lot of slaves, right? He had a lot of slaves. There's like 450 Baskerville.
Wow.
So every time I always meet Americans in different places and their last name is Baskerville, they're all black. There are no white Baskervilles in the United States because after slavery, they all went back to England. He's the same Baskerville family from the Sherlock Holmes book, Hounds of the Baskervilles. That's Sherlock Holmes. Because this is a very popular family in England. They were the Dutches. They've been in England for 1,000 years. They came to England in 1070 something, right? So they were part of the formation of the Norman people that came from France that became the Anglo-Saxons. The Baskervilles were the first family. There's a font. When you're on Microsoft Word, you never saw that font, Baskerville font?
Nah, I never saw it.
No, there's so many. There's so many. You ever seen
But the name sounds super familiar. Like I've heard it before.
Baskerville font? You ever seen the movie Interstellar?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
That's Baskerville font, right? Baskerville is the font. So
I so much history in this name, eh?
it's because the family is really super rich. Dukes and duchesses of England, and they spread throughout the world. There's Baskervilles in Brazil, in São Paulo.
Really?
You know why? A lot of those guys came after the Civil War was over and slavery was over in the United States. Some of those guys came to Brazil. There's a guy named Nelson Baskerville. Hey, Nelson. Nelson, você não tá respondendo minhas mensagens no Instagram, Nelson. Eu mandei algumas mensagens pra você. Right? He doesn't respond.
Oh.
Nelson Baskerville, he's a popular playwright that you call dramaturgo here in Sao Paulo.
Wow.
And I put his name in a video because I made a video talking about my family history, and I told them, I'm like, well, Nelson Baskerville, he even looks like the guy who enslaved my family, but he's a Brazilian actor and
Nelson Baskerville.
So one of these people is like, all right, well, I can't have slaves in the United States anymore. Let me come to Brazil now, right? And he start the same thing over here. Why? Because slavery still existed for another 30 years after here. That's why there's at least 35 Brazilian people with my same last name, right? It's crazy. It's a crazy history. But that's in Virginia. Well, my family's from Virginia. The Fields, my mother's family, they're from North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina, the Bull City. I spent summers growing up there. And my father's mother's family, the Joneses, they're from South Carolina, Sumter, South Carolina. And so that's where my lineage is. And it's interesting, if you look in the United States, Black Americans, we only used to strategically go to cities that are closer to the cities that we were slaves in. Like, for example, people that live in New York City or New Jersey or Boston, they were enslaved in the East Coast South. North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia. Florida never had slavery, but because Florida was Spanish, right? So there was no slavery there. But then, if I go over to Chicago, those people just went straight up the Mississippi River from Mississippi to Chicago. And so basically, they came from the South where slavery, segregation was 100% legal, to the North where it wasn't legal. But how do you have black ghettos in the North? Black, dangerous, poor neighborhoods. They were all white, middle-class areas, right? Like, even Compton, you look at Compton, you look at Baltimore, you look at, like, any area, Boston, parts of New Jersey, Newark, my city. Like, these were all middle-class white areas. But once we came, there was this thing we call white flight. Have you ever heard of white flight?
Yeah. White flight.
White flight is where, en masse, a whole bunch of white people leave an area because they don't want to share the area with black people. It's like this. If I moved to the area, it was a middle-class area, I can probably charge, I'm not going to talk about the money at that time. I'm going to talk about the money now. I could charge about $400,000 for this house. This is in today's money. But once I come as a once my black family comes, now that price is now my house is worth probably like $250,000. We lower the property value because the white people leave because they don't want to live. Because the idea of living in a middle class American dream is only being around other white people, not being around black people.
So do you guys think that all these things that you said are changing or getting worse, or like
I'm not there, so I can't really speak on. I can't speak on how it is. You know what I mean?
Do you know? Have you watched the video of Chris Rock talking about that he lives in I don't know if it's a condominium,
gated community.
Yeah, so he lives there, and then he said nowadays he's rich, famous, and the security always ask him, "Do you work here? Do you work here?" Because all the place that he lives, like 90% is white people.
Yeah, but there's the thing is there's a lot of rich black people too. You know what I mean? But the thing is, like, most people aren't rich, but there are a lot of rich black people. So when rich black people complain about stuff like that, I'm like, okay, you go through that, but you live where you want to live. You could buy a mansion in the middle of the woods somewhere. You know what I mean? That's your situation right now. There's a lot of people who are rich and they don't live in condominiums and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If I was rich, I wouldn't live in no damn condominium. I'm gonna have me a mansion.
I think it's interesting. I guess what's going on with the neighborhoods and the neighborhood makeup of these cities and these towns and the suburbs of the United States, because historically, like Jordan was saying, that the suburbs were an area where people would live that American dream with the house and the white picket fence and be away from the inner city. But like that's inefficient because you have to drive everywhere. So you spend most of your day driving, and you're so isolated, it's not walkable. So it doesn't really become efficient to live in a suburb. So a lot of people are moving from suburbs to cities. Yeah. So a lot of like middle class white, people are moving to like larger cities like New York, Chicago,
What's
LA.
that doing? What's that doing
and that's
to-
pushing like a lot of minorities, Black people, Hispanic people, out of these cities and into like suburb areas. So like the inverse is happening because historically before, a lot of like Black people and other minorities, they lived inside the larger cities like New York, Chicago, and Washington D.C. That's like a huge one. But now, like, since people are saying, like, I mean, the suburb life is different. Like, it's boring. You, like I said, you have to drive everywhere, so you spend most of your day inside your car, and that becomes expensive, especially as gas prices start to rise.
Yeah.
So
And people get fat. Like,
exactly. So people in like the cities are like I'm from New York. Like I walk everywhere. Sometimes I'll walk like the equivalent of like 15 kilometers in a day. That's normal. People don't walk that much in the suburbs. So, you know, that contributes to people in the cities being more healthier. So there's a lot of benefits to living in the city that people from the suburbs, they see and they say, okay, I think it's better to move to the cities now. So what that does is it causes like these large hikes in, you know, the prices of housing. And the people there are like unable to afford the housing, so they start running to other areas. Like, for example, a lot of people in New York right now, they're moving to Atlanta, they're moving to Washington, D.C., they're moving to North Carolina, they're moving a lot of places down south because New York has become so expensive.
not only New York, New Jersey too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, definitely New Jersey.
California, right? California is hella expensive as well.
yeah,
Isn't it?
I imagine. I've never been
Yeah,
there,
there's-
but from what I
but,
hear,
yeah, but
Yeah.
like I've heard, I've read many things about it. Like it's impossible to live in if you're not rich,
yeah.
Right.
and that there are a lot of people who like they have ordinary jobs, so they're not able to get it.
An interesting statistic I read was about 10,000 people a month move from California to Texas.
Yeah, Texas. They're going to Texas.
Texas is receiving a lot of people from these northern cities like Chicago, New York, or sometimes, you know, LA or Texas, California cities like LA or San Diego, because it's expensive. And what that's doing is interesting because it's also changing the politics of the people that live in these areas. So a lot of these red states, which are Republican, are becoming more blue now because people are moving
Meaning
from
Democrat.
Yeah, so
Mm.
it's interesting because a state like Texas, which is like historically red, is now becoming a lot more blue because of cities like Houston, Austin, even Dallas. There's a lot of people moving into those cities, and these are like new voters that are like a lot of them are coming from Democratic areas, so they're making the cities and the states overall more blue. So it's just an interesting change that's going on in the United States right now.
That's got to be so irritating to those Republicans in
Oh, yeah,
Texas.
it is.
How dare you come here with your leftist Democratic ideas, right? But Texas is a place where he talked about a city like Houston. These are hellholes to me because, like, when you talk about suburbs, the whole city of Houston is just a whole bunch of different suburbs. Like it's like Houston to me is like 25 or even more different cities,
Yeah, it
right?
is.
And you got to drive on these super huge highways to get to little different places. It's not like you got Sao Paulo, you have Centro, and you have neighborhoods, and it's expensive, which in itself is not the best situation either. I love Sao Paulo, but it's just too much urban sprawl for me. The more and more I live here, the more I feel crushed. I don't feel so crushed because I live right next to a big, nice park. So I can go to the park and just, like, relax.
Yeah, relax, chill out. Yeah.
They were talking about a couple years ago putting some high rises where that park is, and the neighborhood was like, no, because this is the only place that we have to breathe and all of this. You got all these people living on top of each other with not a lot of areas. We don't have beaches. At least, like, if you live on top of each other in Salvador, like, all right, I'm going to the beach. And
Yeah.
this is my space, right? I'm not gonna go to Ibirapuera.
Ibirapuera.
Itaquaquecetuba. I can say
Oh,
that.
yeah, good.
That's
good.
where I'm from. I born there.
Itaqua?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny story about Itaqua. It was an indigenous place. So the flag of Itaqua is a priest and a indigenous person. I say Indian, but Indian is
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
Well, in Portuguese, it's Indian, right? But
Well,
it's
is that
indigenous
Jay-Z? No, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say he said red dot or feather, but that's so ignorant. That's so ignorant. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, but he spelled it right. He spelled it right.
He talk like his dude. But like, can I just finish what I was finishing?
Yeah.
Is when that runs out, when that gets to
Yeah,
60,
but
it's over.
No. We can go on.
Yeah,
Look,
go
when you
on,
got
go on.
timers, that causes a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, anxiety. You know I'm very good
I
at
didn't even notice the timer.
It's a bomb.
Yeah,
No, we can
that's something.
we can go on.
We can go on.
All right, so I
No
just
problem.
wanted to finish telling that story real quick because I'm
All right.
scatterbrained. So if you start another topic, it's going to take me off of my topic, and I'm going to go on that topic.
Yeah.
And we just went on history tag. I showed you pictures of Dr. Robert Dorch Baskerville. Like I didn't. The people couldn't even see that. You're gonna have to pull up that image on the.
Yeah, we put on description.
Okay, cool. Now in this case, why did I move to Panama in 2011? We had a war, and it's interesting because everything that we talked about is similar. Like my city right now, I just went back there. I was in the end of June and the beginning of July. My uncle got murdered. Newark threw a cookout. You understand what I'm saying? Like there wasn't a cookout because he got killed in the winter, but they had parties, man. My uncle was a killer. He was a crazy dude. He got killed because he robbed the same guy 7 times, and the last time it was a snowstorm.
Wow.
And he told him to take off his gator shoes.
Let's move on.
But I'm saying that to say because it's history. You can watch the documentary. They talk. They show my uncle. They say the man that killed him, that pulled that shotgun. That's like my uncle. I grew up with that dude. But it's a secret in the city. Nobody knew. When they came out with that documentary, everybody in the city was watching it. Only reason, because I started crying. I said, oh, who killed Malcolm X? Let's watch this with my wife. We were watching it.
You didn't know.
I had no idea.
No one had.
Yo, I'm watching the documentary. And when they say, oh, we're in Newark, New Jersey, and they showed that mosque. And I'm like, wait, I grew up there. And then they had people interviewing it.
You were recognizing things.
I'm like, yo, I started panicking. I'm like, yo, I got to turn this off, baby. I got to make some phone calls. And I started calling people. My sister, everybody was watching it like, yo, this is crazy. They trying to say that he pulled the trigger? Like, get your hands out my pocket? That was him? That was like, that dude's like my uncle, man. And so that shit was crazy. Either way, I moved to Panama because, like, I was living in Plainfield, and in that time, it was a black city, you know, but we had a lot of Latinos coming in the city. And there was a big problem between Latinos and blacks. It was our fault. They're easy victims.
But between Latinos and
Well, just
black
one thing. When you say Latinos, you say about Mexican or
Any country that comes from Spanish-speaking countries in Central,
Spanish
South.
and Portuguese, right? Because
Spanish-speaking.
So just Spanish.
The Brazilians don't live in the hood. They when the Brazilians go to Newark, usually they live in the Ironbound area. We call it the neck because Newark is like a head. It looks like a head, and the area where the neck would be, that's the Portuguese area of Newark. And the Brazilians live in that area. It was a Portuguese area, but then it became a Brazilian area. So I'm talking about Latinos.
Okay.
But they're easy victims when they come illegally. They're easy victims because I can do anything with you. You're going to tell the cops?
Yeah, they can't really tell the
And
police anything.
I'd like to talk about another topic that you spoke about it. I think yesterday or the day before yesterday on Instagram about the expression "nigga" in English because you said, "Well, guys, it's not nice, it's not good." And you also said, like here in Brazil, we say "viado," but for like our friends, our male friends, we say that, and it's not offensive for us. So we say, okay. I might not use it because I'm not used to, because I don't know this person, but you guys do, so okay. But like nigga doesn't sound okay or good. It sounds really offensive, right?
Yeah, well, that guy that I was showing you in that image that was the slave owner of my family, as he was whipping, what do you think he called my great-great-grandfather?
Yeah,
as he's
nigga.
whipping him, kicking him, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? He's a nigga. So, like, and then after... Who do you think the Ku Klux Klan is saying when they're riding into your
Their
property?
horses,
What
yeah.
do they call
Do you
it?
know the origin of origin of the word?
Some people say, because some people say like niggas and kings and all the. I don't know if that stuff is true, man. Like, there's no like. I remember these people were saying like back in the day, Africa was called Akabalan or something like that.
Something like that.
And I'm like, well, how in that era would you have a name for something so big? You know what I mean? One person created a name for something so big. Like, so when people had these origin stories, like, I don't know if it's true.
But let me ask you one thing. I heard that, like, I'm Brazilian. I cannot go to a black place in the U.S. and say nigga. But in some points, like, people can call themselves this way because they were born there, you know, their reality. Is it really real or not?
People do it all day. People do it all the day, all the time. Like, all my students, when I was at work, they all, nigga. It's every day, it's all the time. But you have to understand what you're looking at, though. You're looking at people who are being controlled mentally. Even if they don't think that they're being, like, they could seem like the smartest person in the world. And they are. A lot of people that say nigga, they're smart people. They just don't understand the gravity because they didn't live in that era. So for them, it's just like, it's just a word. You know, it has no, and in their mind, I changed the word because the original word is nigger with the ER at the end.
The hard R.
But my thing is, black people do that with everything. I'm better or I'm better, right? I'm a teacher or I'm a teacher. We do that, and in black, every ER.
No difference.
Yeah, the ER
almost the
becomes
same.
The A. So like, my thing is like, you're not changing the word. You're saying it in the way that black people say every word. Like,
the history behind the word is it's a little bit complicated. I mean, like, so a lot of the slave owners and, you know, they use that word as a way to sort of subjugate and sort of label the enslaved people. Right. So then, you know, shortly after slavery and the Reconstruction era, which they call that period after slavery, a lot of black people started to use the word amongst themselves. Right. And but with a different sort of tonation, like Jordan is saying, like with it's like a nigga instead of nigger. Like nigger is sort of offensive. It's offensive. And I guess culturally, it's kind of one of those things that it's like sort of understood that only black people can use this word because it's like a taking of power back, you know, because this word was used to sort of like, you know, make me feel less than, but like I want to own this word now. So that's kind of how I think the psychology of that word sort of like evolved. So it's something that we wanted to, that as black people we took back and said, hey, this is, you know, our word now. So it's you know, it's a bit complicated.
It's very complicated.
Really complicated, but it's not good at all.
Because me personally, I don't think we took it back. I think some black people always said nigga, but in my grandmother's generation, that word every time, because I used to live with my grandmother and my cousin, same age as me, and he didn't care. He would bring his whole friends that be playing video games. You stupid nigga. And my grandmother's room is like right there. Yeah. And like every time, it doesn't
hurts
matter.
her.
It hurts her.
Yeah, it's not like something from her grandmother. No, it's like it's a recent thing.
Yeah, she was born in 1925, my grandma.
Yes.
She's dead now. She died in 2018, but she was born in 25. Like, she grew up hearing people call her that word, you know?
Yeah.
So it's different for her, and it's different for the older generation of black people that had been there for a long time and have experienced that sort of vitriol and cruel like racism. So it's like the younger people, they don't really understand the gravity, and you know, that's what creates that sort of I guess misunderstanding between generations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's too early to forget.
Too early
to
it's
forget.
only 150 years ago.
But the thing is, we probably would have forgotten.
Yeah.
Like, because there were other words, right? There were other words that we had even in the 70s. You drive, turkey. What's going on, brother? Hey, blood. It's this blood. You hear the blood gang and all that, but the real, like, the Bloods from in Los Angeles, they formed that gang because people was already saying blood. That's what up, young blood? Right? That's that old way of speaking, right? They killed that because they saw that they didn't have to have the Ku Klux Klan. They didn't have to kill us if we could do it to each other. And how could we do it to each other? Let me put it in the music. So before, actually, the movies, how did black people start saying nigga massively? The blaxploitation. Have you ever heard of blaxploitation films?
No.
No.
Oh, you gotta look at
era of it's like, sorry, it was like an era of time in which, Hollywood saw that it was profitable to make movies about black people, but oftentimes these movies would contain harmful stereotypes.
Yes. And those stereotypes, actually, they saw from the movies starting in the 70s that we'll imitate that. When they did Superfly, that directly was responsible for a lot of people's deaths in Los Angeles. The Bloods and the Crips had already started 10 years before they made Superfly. They made Superfly in, I think, 71, something like that. And, like, he won at the end of the movie. Yeah. That was the first movie where a bad guy won, and it's not for nothing that it's a black movie.
And for some people, like, this kind of thing, the stereotype is something soft. It's something that we put some references, and then when we realize, like, we have this picture in our mind, like, we get it to ourselves. That's a problem. Anyway, it's the end of our conversation here. It was a pleasure meeting you guys. Like, my first time talking to you. I obviously would love to have you guys again. Well, you live in Bahia, so it's gonna be like much harder.
Yeah,
but
I come to São Paulo a lot.
Good.
I come to
He lives everywhere.
Yeah, I come to São Paulo a lot. I love São Paulo.
Yeah, we didn't talk about our students. I forgot it. We went too deep.
We're
in
talking
some
about
subjects.
a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, we
scatterbrain. Like I said.
but it was a nice talk. So it was a pleasure. And before we finish our podcast, we normally make a questions to our guests. Do you want to do it?
These
please?
questions, I'm not sure if it fits well for you guys, but anyway.
We can change a little bit. Like, they can talk about how English is important, because they mainly because he's an English.
Yeah. So usually this question means which message you leave for someone Brazilian that doesn't speak English yet. But yeah, that might fit well. Which messenger you guys would leave?
That want to speak English, they want to learn, because some people don't care to learn, right?
Yeah. Well, we never thought about this way, but yeah, for who else wants to learn English?
Yeah, normally the people who watch the podcast, they want to learn.
Yeah. Okay.
You
go first?
Yeah, I think I'll go first. So one thing I've noticed, because for a while I've been helping my wife improve English, and things don't really translate literally. Yeah. So I think language is all about ideas, right? Yeah. Like how you express an idea. Like I can say I'm hungry, right? Like I am something. But like in Portuguese, you say eu tô com fome. Like you have something. I have hunger. So like it translates differently, and we don't really pronounce every letter, right? Like one thing I was trying to get my wife to do is to stop pronouncing ed, like stop it. She says stop it.
That's a big thing. A lot of people do that.
Yeah. So we don't really pronounce like every single letter, So just read a lot of books, or things that you're interested in, and watch podcasts, and try and practice as much as you can.
In your case, you're a nomad, and you able to give your service for anyone around the world because you speak English, right? If some Brazilian wants to be nomad and it's just speak Portuguese, it's just for countries that speak Portuguese, they can sell their product. Mm-hmm. But in English, you can sell for people in Australia and somewhere, I don't know,
in Asia.
It doesn't matter because you speak English. So in your case, it's very important you speak English, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for nomad, for someone who wants to become a nomad.
Yeah. So most of my clients are from the United States. Some are from like Europe, so, and everybody like I said, speaks English. So
is important.
Even people who don't speak English, like I'll get some people from France sometimes, but they'll communicate with me in English. Yeah. And I guess it's one of those things where it's a global language, and it's kind of hard to escape if you want to have opportunities outside of Brazil or have clients outside of Brazil. So it's kind of, but I mean, with that, there's a lot of resources for learning. I mean, I've met Brazilians. I remember one of the first guys that I met who taught himself English was from here in São Paulo. He gave me a tour. I had a tour on Airbnb of like, São Paulo central area and everything the first time I came. And it was so good. Like he barely made any mistakes. And I asked him, I said, how did you learn English? Because I was just so fascinated and I wanted to learn Portuguese. And he was just telling me that, I just use Netflix. So he used what is available to him. And I guess he probably used other Facebook groups as well. But, use what's available to you to learn. Like if you have a Netflix account, start with that. And also, one other thing I've been using is Spotify. So Spotify has this feature where I think I can show it to you right now, where they transcribe the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, so like when I'm watching Podpa or like Flow Podcast or one of these podcasts, like they'll transcribe it. So let me show you. I have like a whole
it's really
playlist.
Good to learn.
Oh, it's not this one.
Yesterday we were talking about how we learn English. So I was telling, like back when I was studying, we have, what is Omegle? Omegle, it's a social media that connects people from around the world. So that's a way that I had to talk in English, Like I was studying, no practicing. So the name of the app was Live Mocha. So you get
I've heard of Live Mocha.
it's not worked like for a long time, but you put I speak Portuguese, learning English, and then they're gonna match you with someone that is studying English as well, or is a English speaker and wants to learn Portuguese.
Gotcha.
So what is the?
Yeah, I'm trying to find like a recent.
And you, what
is the
your
message?
Your final message.
I think my final message would be just like everything that you do in life, when you're walking around and you're seeing things, at least know how to say that in English. Like if you're walking on the street, I'm walking on the sidewalk, right? Now I'm crossing the street. Oh, look, there's a car. It's a blue car. It's an electric car, an EV, an electric vehicle. It's there's traffic right now. I'm stuck in traffic. Oh, what a beautiful day. The sun is shining. Like being able to just look at your surroundings and be able to say in your head, not out loud because you want to seem crazy.
I used to do that, but anyway.
If you don't care about seeming crazy, it's actually better. Because you could go in the bathroom, look at yourself in the mirror and be like, you're a tiger. You're a champion. You're raw, right? And somebody might come in and see you. You don't care because you're focused on like I'm trying to learn this language, right? So, I the best thing I can say is that if you don't live in a country where the language is being spoken, try to get it inside of your head, and in every type of experience that you can have, like where you can say something, say it. But you always have the opportunity to observe and speak to yourself in your head.
Nice advice.
Knowledge is something that no one can take away from you.
Not at all.
Sure. Well, if it's enough brain trauma.
You know what I mean?
In this case,
it was a pleasure. Hope to have you here again. You too,
Of course.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a pleasure. It was really great, and I'll go to your space. Well, you're trying to fix.
We're trying to figure it out.
Figure out some things, but I'll probably if everything works out, I'll be there soon.
Cool.
All right,
and I'll let you know.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man.
Thank you. It's been
Thank
a
you
pleasure.
so much, Jordan.
pleasure.
Hope to see you again. Rocky as well.
Thank you.
Hope to see you in Salvador because I've never been to Salvador.
Hey, come to Salvador.
Me neither.
Come to Bahia.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going in November again.
yeah.
After Afropunk, because I want to really like see. Last time I came, with so many festivals happening. I kept going to different festivals.
Bahia is beautiful,
We're
man.
gonna go there.
Go to Universo Paralelo. Em
Now,
Bahia.
a gente chama aqui de tecla SAP, né? Mudando para o português, gostaria de agradecer você que ficou aqui com a gente até agora. Foi um prazer muito grande tê-los aqui, né? Nativos americanos, falando para vocês um pouquinho mais da importância do inglês e não só isso, fazendo com que vocês entrem num processo de imersão real, que é o que realmente importa para aprender inglês. Então considere esse episódio de podcast aqui uma aula avançada para você se divertir, assistir quantas vezes você quiser. Então já deixa o like aí. Certo, meus queridos?
Exato.
Deixa o like.
É isso aí. E para quem quiser aprender inglês também, vamos deixar aqui o link do nosso curso. E quem mora em São Paulo, quer conhecer o espaço aqui, ó? também
Na
vamos
República.
ver. Ele ainda tá
Nossa,
tentando resolver algumas
esse-
coisas,
esse-
mas né, caso tudo se resolva, a gente vai deixar o endereço aqui pra vocês também.
Deixar quem quiser também entrar em contato com eles, as mídias deles vão estar aí na nossa descrição.
Exatamente, meus queridos. Então, muito obrigado por estarem aqui com a gente. Mais uma semana, um forte abraço e até a próxima.
Valeu, galera. Tchau, tchau.
Valeu, pessoal.
Ah, que nice, hey.